Hello everyone and welcome back to the Chrono Cross discussion. This is part 2. We will primarily be talking about gameplay today. Go ahead and move over here to our agenda so we see what's going on. We're going to start off by talking about the battle mechanics. Then we're going to move on to the user interface and menu design. Those might be kind of combined as I'll be showing that for the most part. I'll be playing the game and kind of showing that stuff off. Then we'll talk a little bit about level progression, and then very, very briefly on exploration and side quests. Okie doke. So, I think in order to best... That is not what I'm trying to do. Go back to my friggin... Where is it? No. No. Where is it? Alright, so let's jump into the game itself first. And sort of, I mean, it's really the only way I can talk about it because it's so different from basically any other turn-based JRPG I've played that demonstrating it usually is easier than trying to, like, describe it without a visual aid. So, I'm going to jump into the game and we'll take a look at what's going on. Okay, so here is my New Game Plus file. As you can see down here in the bottom corner, that way. Bottom corner over there, level 70 is where the star is at. I have almost 100,000 gold. So this is a New Game Plus file, but this is just for the sake of demonstrating how it works. I want to preface everything I'm about to say here with the fact that I love how unique the game's battle mechanics are. I haven't seen anything like them. They were very refreshing. And I don't know, I just think they're really well done. It's really well designed overall. Can I come here? Or are they going to slap me around right now? Oh, yes, I can go through here. Okay, so I really, really like them. I think the only failing, and this is kind of why I was going to lump in UI design with this, is because it's a little unintuitive to just read just, you know, through looking at it, like how any of this works, right? Because if you're coming from a traditional RPG, and you're not picking up on things, like, immediately, it's kind of like, holy crap, like, you can't just, like, pick up on it by looking at it. It's something that it kind of needs to be explained to you. And this game does tutorials, I'm half and half on it. I think in one case... It does its tutorial poorly. And in the other case, I think it does it really, really well. The entire idea behind the battle system is that you see these little ticks. If I'm pointing directly next to me right there, there's little green transparent ticks up and down coming like this, little nodes. Okay, those represent slots in which we have placed magic elements, basically spells. So the game does not utilize MP. There's no MP system in the game at all. So you don't use magic points to cast a fire spell, and then you can cast that same fire spell again as long as you have the MP for it. Not the way it works. You can only cast one spell inside of one of these slots. Let's say you put fire into that slot right there. A fireball attack. As soon as you use it, it's gone for the rest of the battle. You can only use it once. So that's why you have all these freaking slots, because you can fill them up with tons and tons of different spells. At this point, where I'm in New Game Plus and I have level 70 characters, there's a lot of spells you can put into those slots. Tons and tons, so you're not going to, like, run out of magic unless you're battling a really, really difficult boss with a lot of HP, and it's going to take a while to grind his health down. However, early on in the game, you don't have that many slots, so you kind of have to use, you know, your magic carefully. But at this point, where we've just started the battle, as you can see, elements are grayed out. I can't use elements at all until I build up to that tier. It's gonna be kind of hard to explain it. You see, the one I'm pointing to right, well, it's just a little past my finger. That second row of nodes is tier 2, and then past that would be the first tier of nodes. And it goes up like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and it goes all the way up to 8. So you can have up to 8 sort of like rows or tiers of magic, right? And obviously the ones on the end, the ones at the, well, if I'm your direction, we're coming this direction. So the ones on, how do I go to the side here? What the fetch? This way. This way. The ones at the end of the row are the highest, like, level spells, and the ones at the beginning are the lowest level spells. So, in order to access tier 1 of my spells, I have to land a successful attack on the enemy. So you go to attack the enemy, you have 3 choices. You have a level 1 attack, which does small amounts of damage, but it has the highest chance of success. You have the second tier attack, which has a lower chance of success, as you can see there, 82%. But it does more damage, and then same principle for the third. Highest damage, but lowest percent chance of succeeding. Very similar to Xenogears' system with the triangle, square, and X commands. Or cross, if you like to call it cross, okay? So, I can either hit the enemies with a bunch of level 1s and build it up that way, or I could do a level 3 and gain 3 tiers in one attack, right? Now, the other thing to take note of is if you look right down here at this blue bar underneath it. Now, my video is covering it up for this character, Harl, but this blue bar down here, if you look on the other characters that direction, that blue bar represents stamina, and as you can see, everyone has 7 stamina. So doing a level 1 attack would use 1 stamina. A level 2 attack, 2 stamina. A level 3 attack, 3 stamina. So, essentially, since I have 7 stamina, I could use 2 level 3 attacks and a level 1 attack. And that would end my turn. Or I could use, as I'm going to demonstrate here, a level 1 attack. Now, you'll see that the character there, Lynx, who is Surge. I've put a spoiler warning on this for anybody who... I have to, because just seeing the character Lynx and me playing as him is a spoiler. But he has now a level 1. You see the other characters here, level 0. Level 1 is not an indication of the character's level. That's an indication of the tier of elements you can use. So now I can come into elements, and I have all my level 1 spells that I've set up available. And again, if I cast Fireball right now, that's it. I cannot use that particular spell again for the rest of the battle. I only get to use it once. And that's true for every element that I have set up here for, as you can see here, just above me to up there. There's all these different spells that have been put in up there. So this is only the level 1 stuff, right? Now, if I want to get level 2, again, I could hit him with another level 1 with a higher chance of success to get to level 2. Or if I hit him with, say, a level 3 and I hit, I'll get up to level 4. It'll probably kill the monster. Okay, he's not quite dead. Now, as you can see from the flashing... This is so hard. The flashing row up there, these are the level 4 spells. Now I can hit left to go back to level 3, left to go back to level 2, left to go back to level 1. So, I have access to that now. Now if I hit him again with another level 3 attack, that would end my turn. You see it turns yellow there. So if I hit him with a level 2 attack, I'll still be able to use an element. He'll probably die. And now I have all the way up to where the flashing row is now. I have all of these available to me. And I'll show you how you equip these here after the battle's over. But that's kind of the idea, is that you hit the enemies with physical attacks, and then you unlock the ability to use the spells that you have equipped before going into battle. And each and every one of these spells can only be used one single time in the battle. The accuracy, right? So as you can see, when I start out, level 1 is accuracy 93, and then we have 81 and 71 underneath that. But watch what happens when I hit him once. You see all the accuracy went up a little bit. So with each successive attack, you get a little bit of a higher chance to hit, even with these ones down here. So what the game suggests you do is hit with a level 1, you'll get a better chance to hit with level 2, so you hit with level 2, but you miss. Missing happens a lot. I will talk about that in a minute. Okay, let's try level 2 again. Hit with level 2. Now, had I not missed last time, I wouldn't have used that stamina up. I could try level 3 at a higher percentage chance of success. So, essentially you kind of want to play it to where you get as high as possible a chance and use as many level 3 attacks as possible because they do a lot more damage. I'm just going to try that again with Radius. Again, a level 1 gets up to 87%. Level 2. Now, my level 3 attack is at 90% chance of success, or at least so it says. So we hit him with that, and that does a lot more damage than the level 1 or level 2. So you kind of manage your stamina that way, and try to play it to where you're doing as much damage physically with taking the lowest amount of risk of missing a lot. And then build up your elements so you can use your more powerful spells. And then build up your elements so you can use more powerful spells and that sort of thing. That is probably the most basic way I can describe the battle mechanics. That's really all there is to it. There are a few extra things, like there are some characters where if they're in the party together and you build your tiers up to a certain level, you'll be able to unlock double techs or dual techs, which comes from Chrono Trigger, right? Where two characters will attack at the same time. So there are some characters that have that compatibility. Triple techs are in the game as well, so that's an added element to it. Also, I don't know if I can demonstrate this because these characters are these enemies are a little too weak in this area. But stamina management becomes a big deal because if you're attacking, and using spells a lot, you won't quite regain your 7 stamina at the beginning of every turn. Sometimes you'll only come back with maybe 2 stamina or 1 stamina. So defending every once in a while in order to build your stamina back up is a factor that's involved in the battle mechanics as well. This is very, very different from basically any other JRPG I've played. Everything that I've just shown you and described. So, that being true, if you have experience with a lot of other RPGs, even with, say, Chrono Trigger, which is obviously the precursor to this game, you'll come into this one, and I think the user interface is a little bit unintuitive, and it can be hard to pick up on all this stuff I described right off the bat. I know that was true of me. I didn't realize when I first started playing the game that the elder in the village gives you a tutorial to explain this stuff. You know, I was kind of going around, I was talking to Lena, she told me to go get the dragon scales, so I went to get the dragon scales. I was fighting, and I had no freaking idea how any of this stuff worked. So I'm gonna get into a battle again real quick to show this off. So, you know, I start the game off, I figure I'm level 1, right? Of course, they have the little intro sequence before you really start the game, where you get to play around a little bit with the battle system, but I don't know, just looking at this right now, like all these little transparent green ticks, those don't tell me anything about what it is. I have no idea, just looking at it, having never played the game, having never had it explained to me or anything. I have no freaking clue what that represents. I'm just going and maybe attacking somebody. Say attack, I look at the level and it's like, oh, does that mean my character's level 1? Like, wait a minute, I hit again, it's going to level. The ticks are starting to come in, so then you go into the elements, and there's nothing here except for that sort of I keep pointing in the wrong direction. That lighting up, flashing tier there. But again, that sort of lines up with these ticks down here. And I don't think there's any intuitive design in the user interface that helps you understand what those things are. You kind of just have to be perceptive, or like really perceptive, or have done a tutorial and learned about elements, because there's no indication at the left or right of the column at the far left there that I'm scrolling up in right now. There's no like arrow indications right and left, which I think would have been nice to tell you, oh, you can press right and left to access these things. I think just from a menu and user interface design standpoint, this is not an intuitive interface, and you can't just pick it up very quickly and just like read it immediately and like understand what's going on. I think that is a problem with this game, sort of in general across the board, even with the menus that are like in the when you pause or go to your like character menu. I'll show that off here in just a second. So I love the ideas. Like I like the ideas of the battle mechanics. They're really different. They work really well. I think the game is quite well balanced. But I just feel like the design of the UI is kind of clunky, not intuitive enough to where you can read it, understand it, even as someone who's played a lot of JRPGs before, because it's really different from other JRPGs. I'll show another example here. When you're trying to allocate elements, come into here, right? Having absolutely no context, playing this for the first time ever, you don't have as many of these over here as I do now. You have like maybe one or two total available to you. So, like even now, it's like how to freak. You have to press, circle to get back over there, but left to get into here, and then you're going left and right. Like there's nothing that indicates that you press left and right to scroll through this stuff. So it's like it's so hard to describe why I was having trouble like understanding the way it works. You have the L1 and the R1 buttons. You can see those down in the corner, but those just change your character, right? Like I had no idea starting off that I come over here and I can press right to come to the level 2 elements, right again. I feel like it would be great if they had little arrows, again, pointing, maybe flashing, somewhere towards like the center of that column over there, on the right side of it. They have like a little arrow pointing, again, from your perspective, to the right, saying you can go this way. Oh, I can click on the D-pad and come this way, right? See, at least here, there is a little red arrow. You see that little red arrow pointing to the left of links there? That's what I wish they would have put in here on the left and right of that column over there, so you know you can go left and right. But even still, this is so small that it's easy to miss, that you can come over here and equip the characters that are not in your party right now. So I can come to characters that are not in the active party and unequip them and equip them with different stuff too. So yeah, while it's not the worst by any means user interface designs I've ever seen, I just don't think it's great. I really think it could have been better. I think that it's a bit confusing to navigate for someone who's stepping into this for the first time. After you've played it for a while and you've played around with it for, let's say, an hour or two or something like that, and you figure it out, it's fine. But I just think, like, for someone jumping into this right off the bat, trying to understand all this stuff can be kind of tough to figure out. Okay, so one thing I absolutely hate about the user interface design in this game, it drives me crazy. Okay, you miss a lot in this game. You miss a lot. The fact that you miss a lot, like on your physical attacks, is not the main problem. In fact, I think the game is balanced purposefully with the intent that you will miss more frequently than you're used to in most JRPG combat with melee attacks. So it's balanced for that. There's nothing wrong with the choice to make accuracy a little lower than in most JRPGs. What I hate about it is that it tells you right here. I'm not on the right thing. One second. Okay, okay. Sorry, the game wasn't up, it's up now. It tells you right here that you have a 94% chance of success. And if I hit a couple times, Oops, I gotta get back into this. You hit a couple times. Gosh, dang it, hurry up. See, now we can fast forward, see how that works. So you can get through animations faster, it's really cool. Now, 97, 98. Okay, now it says I'm at 99% chance of success. You can get even your level 3 spells up to a 99% chance. Let's fast forward through this so it's faster. You can get even your level 3 up to a 99% chance of success. And then I find, or have found, that that's not inaccurate. That is not accurate at all. In fact, I'll just call it out for what it is. That number right over there is not accurate. It is not actually a 90% chance, what I'm pointing at right now. That is not a 90% chance, even though it says so in the user interface. That's not a 99% chance of success. It's actually lower than that, especially in early game. It's like 87% chance of success. I mean, I'm not missing a lot right now, but I'm telling you, you miss all the freaking time in this game. And, you know, missing is a little bit more frustrating in this game than in other RPGs, because when you miss, that means that you did not gain the next tier for your elements on a turn. So it's like, I have to land all 6 attacks to get to my levels, you know, in order to not run out of stamina. Because you have 7 stamina. You want to attack up to 6 times, or a combination of a level 3 attack and a level 3 attack. It would be 2 attacks, but you go up to level 6. But then you still have 1 stamina left with which you can cast a spell. You want to get up to your level 6 tech, or whatever it is. If you miss 1 time, you have to wait till the next turn to get up to that. So it can be a little bit annoying to miss a lot, because like, crap, I can't use the element I wanted to use on this turn. Now, the second reason why that's so annoying is because it's telling you you have a certain percent chance of success. That's not actually true. Right now I have 3 Dragon Glories equipped. I'll unequip those. Do you see in the top left box, you have links, HP, strength underneath that, resistance underneath that, stamina recovery. And underneath that you see attack, defense, magic, hit percentage, evade percentage, and magic defense. His hit percentage is only 88% at this point, at this level. I don't know if I don't think this equipment gives him any higher hit percentage. You have to actually equip. You see how this increases his attack, his magic, and his hit percentage? Up to 91% from 88%. You equip these, and now apparently he has, what, a 96% hit percentage chance. But even still, even with all of this equipped, he has a 96% hit percentage and say a 90% hit percentage as it displays the battle. I still feel like they miss more often than that. So I felt that's a mistake, and it makes it more frustrating than it needs to be, because it's telling you you have a certain percent chance of success, and that's not an actual accurate number indicating what your chance of success is, because that is taken into account as well as your character's hit percentage chance, which earlier in the game without accessories like this could be as low as 84%. And it's like, you really have an 84% chance of success, even though it's telling you have a 90-something% chance of success. So you're missing more often than you should, and it's just like, what the freak am I missing so much? So I think that's not good UI design. It really bothered me a lot. Now, there are some tutorials. They're not, well, some of them are mandatory. The mandatory ones are good. The not mandatory one was not very good. So you can go and fight the town elder in the first village. He's, as an optional tutorial, he'll explain a lot of this stuff. One other thing I forgot to explain about the battle system, which I'll show off right now, and which they explain in that opening tutorial, is that, do you see the field effect in the top left corner up there? And how there are different colors in it? So that's the field effect, and basically your elements are tied to colors, right? Gosh, he misses all the time. Even in New Game Plus. Okay, so those colors up there represent the element type. So blue element types, white element types, black, green, yellow, and red. So when you cast one, let me just, let's see, we got a blue one in there already. Why don't I just cast Cure Plus on myself or something? And watch what'll happen in the field effect. You'll have 2 blues, and the green will move to the outside. So now we have 2 blues spells and 1 green spell. What that effectively does is if you fill that up with all blue, then your blue attacks will be much more powerful. And on the inverse of that, if you fill up the field effect with the opposite element, so let's say we did it with fire, right? And the enemy I'm fighting is a water type or uses water-based spells, blue-based spells. If that's all filled with red, the blue spells will be less effective. So you can kind of mess around with the field effect like that and essentially give yourself an advantage and give yourself a boost to your elemental damage while making the enemy's attacks weaker. So that's really cool too. It's a little bit hard to control that, especially when there's a lot of enemies on the field. It's a little bit easier to do that in boss fights, but even still, it depends on the speed of the enemy and how often they'll get a chance to attack. The other tricky thing about it is the only way that you can use summons in the game is if you fill up the field with one element. So if I have a blue summon, for instance, what you have to do is fill the field effect with all blue. Then go to the character. See, it filled with all blue, but I killed him. Then go to the character who has that blue summon, and they have to use it when the field effect is entirely blue. I kind of didn't like that because it was tough to make that happen unless you have the element, which I will show you here. They're all sorted. Okay, there's an element called Turn Blue. Here's one for Turn Yellow, right? So if you use this spell, it immediately turns the field effect completely yellow. And so if you use that with a character first, and then it comes to the next character's turn, and they have the yellow summon, they'll be able to use that quickly. Here's one for Turn Green, there's one for Turn Red, Turn Blue, and so forth. They have Turn Black and Turn White and everything else. So that should cover the basics of how the battle system works. And I think the battle system is fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And it is so different from conventional, I guess, turn-based JRPG combat mechanics that it was fun to sort of learn it and figure out. And there is a little bit of a curve in sort of learning it if it's not been explained to you. But over time, you really start to get it down, and it can be a lot of fun playing with the field effect, managing your stamina, and defending at the right time. Making sure you bring enough of a certain type of element. So if you're facing an enemy that's blue, then you want to make sure you bring a lot of fire elements. Making sure you have the right party, because each party member has an innate element. So if I come to the status here, you see innate up there at the top right, or in the top right of the box in the top left. It says innate, and there's a black circle there. So Link's is an innate black element. You can actually see it here. And Radius is innate green, and Harl is an innate black. So you'll bring the right character with you who has the innate color that would be the weakness of the boss you're fighting. So there's a lot of strategy in which characters you choose, which elements you bring with you, how you manage your stamina, all that stuff. Now, the game is not terribly difficult, so even if you're not fully optimized in that way, you'll probably still get through the game with relative ease, especially because you can run away from almost any fight in the game, even against bosses, which is really cool. I actually really like this about the game. You have basically a 100% chance of escaping. It's not like most RPGs where it's like there'll be certain battles you cannot escape from at all, and then there are some battles where it's like it's kind of hard to run away. You have to try it a few times first. But in this game, you can run away from any battle, from absolutely any battle at all. So you go into a boss fight having no idea, because you're playing it blind. You have no idea what its element is. I mean, you could probably draw that from the area you're in. If you're in a volcano, it's probably going to be a fire enemy. But sometimes you don't know that. So you go in, you're unprepared, you didn't bring the right elements with you. Maybe you should have re-equipped, or you should have brought a different character. Any number of things. You're like, you know, I want to try this differently. Bam. You run away, 100% chance of escaping. You go prepare and come back and fight the boss again. Really, really loved that. I thought that was great because, you know, without reading a guide or something, so often you go into a boss fight in an RPG and you just have no freaking clue what to expect. And sometimes you're not prepared and you die and you have to go back to your last save or whatever. So that's a really good feature. I'm really glad that they added that. Now, I was going to talk about tutorials. So I really enjoyed the tutorial with the Salt and Pepper characters. I did not enjoy the tutorial with the town or the village elder because it was a really massive amount of information dumped on you all at once, and it was like, whoa, it's a bit overwhelming. I've voiced my opinion in the past when it comes to tutorials, how I like them to be small bits of information that give you time to practice that for a bit, maybe through an area or a dungeon or something. Then they add another layer. Here's another thing you can do. And they let you practice that for an area until they've sort of slowly shown you the entire battle system. And then you get it down. It's easy to retain that way instead of just throwing down like paragraphs and paragraphs of text and expecting the player to retain it all right off the bat. So they do a lot of that in the very first tutorial, which I don't like. But then they have these battles with this Salt and Pepper characters. And I love characters like that, by the way. Square used to use characters like that brilliantly. They're these sort of like comedic characters that are enemies or something like that, but they're kind of bumbling fools. And it's just an opportunity to have a battle where they'll explain just one thing. Generally, they'll come and explain one new element of the battle system. And from that, you can then you pick up on what they're saying, but they're writing in such a clever and witty way where the characters banter back and forth is really funny. I really liked those characters, and I liked that way of introducing the player to new battle mechanics slowly over time, because you have several battles with those characters. And so it does a really good job of cementing those ideas into your mind, because one, it's not just like banal and just plain text and just purely like informative. They're introducing the ideas in a really witty way that's funny and fun, and that sort of plays into the narrative a little bit, and feels diegetic in that way. So I really, really, really enjoyed those two characters in that way of doing tutorials. So I liked that quite a bit. So that pretty much puts out there my thoughts on the battle mechanics and the UI design. I think the battle mechanics are really cool. They're really different. They're really unique, fresh. I also like that it's true turn-based rather than having an ATB system. But the user interface and the menu design, I'm not a huge fan of. Okay, so character progression is the next thing I want to talk about. This game has a really unique take on character progression as well, and I actually really like it. Essentially, there's no experience that you get from battles. You do not earn experience from battles at all. The only way that you level up is by fighting a boss. So each time you fight a boss, it's a guaranteed level up. And then after having fought that boss and leveling up, you have the next, I would say, 5 to 6 battles give you small increases to your stats and HP. So you'll get plus, and you'll get boost to strength, boost to HP, boost to all that different stuff for a few battles. But after a while, that slows down and eventually stops, so that when you fight battles, you're not getting any boosts to your stats at all until you fight the next boss, where you get an immediate level up. And after that, then you can fight a couple more battles against random enemies. It doesn't even matter what their level is. You'll just get small boosts to some of your stats. Then you fight another boss and level up again. It's really interesting, especially when you start playing a New Game Plus, because the level of the enemy literally doesn't matter. in how you level up. So it gives you some incentive to where you've stopped sort of gaining those stat boosts to just avoid fighting enemies, just running around them. And there's no random encounters in this game. You can see the individual enemies on the map, and you can choose to engage or avoid at your leisure, which I also like. I like that a lot. I don't like random encounters. So it's really cool because then you go back on New Game Plus. I think I finished the game, my first playthrough, in like the mid-40s in level. And as you saw there, I was level 70. Even the early game enemies, which are way easy to kill, each boss you fight still grants you a level up. So you're still able to level up at the same rate on New Game Plus as you did on New Game. So that was kind of interesting way of, first of all, of getting rid of any need for grinding, right? Because you don't grind for levels in this game. So there's no need to run around and fight enemies over and over again. If you want to level up, you got to progress. You got to go to the next boss. So it totally eliminates the need for grinding out of the game altogether. And I thought that was a really good idea. I really like the way they handle level progression, because level progression is tied straight into progression in the story. So as you progress in the story, you will level up exactly how you need to fight the next boss, because you literally can't over level for the next boss. You're locked at that level until you fight the next boss, then you're locked at that level until you fight the next one. So it's a really nice way of controlling that, and it keeps the game focused on moving forward. And so I thought that was really cool. I really like the level progression system in the game. Okay, last thing I wanted to talk about is exploration and side quests. Overworld map is really similar to how it works in Chrono Trigger. There aren't any battles on the overworld. You kind of just go between one town and the next, or one area to the next. You have the boats that you can get, so you can sail around to the different islands that are that make up the world of Chrono Cross. And side quests, for the most part, were really quite good. A lot of them are for, as you would expect, gaining the level 8 abilities for your characters, getting the most powerful weapons in the game, and things of that nature. So that's pretty standard JRPG stuff. Here's the one thing that I find a bit baffling, and I think a lot of people also felt this way. So there's a quest line to get the Chrono Cross, which is an item that you get. And even still, in order to use it in the final battle, you have to do a very specific... You have to cast your elements in a very specific order, right? So you have to do... I can't remember what it is right now, but I'm just going to make it up. You have to cast yellow, green, blue, red... which ones did I miss there? Yellow, green, blue, red, black, white. In that order. And then you can use the Chrono Cross to end that final battle and get the actual ending of the game. The problem is that the boss itself can interrupt as you're trying to make those casts. You have to use one character to cast a yellow, use your next character to cast a green, use your next character to cast a blue. But the boss can then have a turn and interrupt with the wrong spell for that order. So it's a little bit of a grind to get, and you have to be a little bit lucky with how the boss casts in order to get that to line up correctly. And once that's lined up correctly, you got to make sure it's your turn, or it's whoever has the Chrono Cross equipped. I don't know if Surge is the only one who can, but that's who I put it on. And then Surge has to use the Chrono Cross, and that immediately ends the battle. You don't actually have to deplete the enemy, the final boss's HP. By doing that, that's how you see the real ending of the game. If you did not do that and you kill that boss, this is on the first playthrough, mind you, it just goes straight to credits. The credits end and it says over. There's no ending. So I think a lot of people who played the game, who might not have done the quest line to get the Chrono Cross, or figured out exactly what order they're supposed to use their spells in to use the Chrono Cross, they beat the game. It's like, what is this? What? The game didn't end. Baffling design decision, in my opinion. I have no idea why they did that. Super cryptic. They do have clues there. They use a musical cue that's meant to help you sort of understand the order of the elements and stuff. But even still, like knowing, okay, I got to cast that in the right order in the battle and then use the Chrono Cross. Like none of that's really explained. You just have to figure that out or look at an FAQ online to figure that out. I think a lot of people did not figure that out, and they saw the ending and they were very, very disappointed in that. But if you cast it in the right order and you use the Chrono Cross, then you get the true ending, which is obviously a lot more satisfying than simple credits and an ending screen. But it is nice that, just like in Chrono Trigger, you can start a New Game Plus. By the way, just New Game Plus alone is an amazing feature. I freaking love it. I'm loving playing through the game again on New Game Plus because obviously it's quicker to go through the game because the enemies are weaker and I can kill them really quickly with high-level characters. But on top of that, they give you a fast-forward button. I should have shown that off. I will go back into the game. Actually, I have some recorded footage of this. I'll overlay it over the top of the video. So you can fast forward and just make the game way faster, which is really cool. And then, at varying points throughout the game, you can go right back at the very beginning and kill Lavos with just Surge or maybe one other character right at the beginning of the game, and you get a different ending. And then, you know, with each sort of major event that happens, you can kind of go back to the beach again, fight Lavos, and you can unlock all these different endings by beating him at different times. The most recent one that I unlocked was the one where you fight him as Link. So you first turn into Link, you get back to the real world. That was actually the party I had there when I fought it. And then basically the ending is Surge is still in Link's body, and they have an ending play out where he doesn't get his original body back, right? So the time at which you decide to face that boss will alter which kind of ending you can get. So that's really fun especially for people who are completionists. They like to do everything there is to do in a game. That can be a lot of fun to unlock all of those. So I really like that. So for the most part, the side quests I think are really good. They give really great rewards, and really great rewards in terms of weapons or getting a new character or getting that character's level 8 tech, and stuff like that. So also like the ability to craft like rainbow weapons, which are the strongest weapons in the game aside from the character's like individual like best weapon or whatever. So yeah, I think that that's all really well handled, and it's really quite good. Okay, so that's basically everything I wanted to go over today with gameplay. If there's anything I didn't bring up that you would like me to answer or get my thoughts on, put it in the comments. And if you have any thoughts, you disagree with some of what I've said today, I'd love to hear from you too, because again, the entire point of these discussion videos is to bounce ideas off of you and have you give me perspective maybe that I didn't really, I didn't have while playing the game. So it helps me to get a broader perspective, sort of like learn things I didn't know before, and it often will change my mind before I do like the final video. But just to go over in summary, the 4 things we touched on: battle mechanics, freaking awesome. User interface and menu design, terrible, I hate it. Level progression, freaking sweet, love it. Exploration and side quests, awesome. So for the most part, I think the gameplay is awesome in this game. Really interesting. Just wish that user interface was better and that they would more accurately tell you what percentage chance you really have of success. And that you didn't have to miss quite so often. But like I said, they don't have to necessarily change they don't have to increase your chance of success. They just have to show what it accurately is, and I think that would go a long way towards making it less frustrating for me personally. Okay, so that is today's discussion on Chrono Cross's gameplay. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share me, please do so in the comments, and I will consider them. And in the next video that I make, I'm going to respond to as many of the comments, both from the last video and this video, as I can, while also talking about the soundtrack and maybe some of the story content. So not storytelling, that was the last video, but story content, just like some of the cool things in Chrono Cross's story ideas and how it ties into Chrono Trigger and stuff. I might get into that a little bit, but mostly I want to talk about music and then answer some comments from the last couple videos. Okay. Until then, have a great week, and I will see you again soon. Peace out.